It's big enough to use a barge to bring in the heavy equipment needed to fix it. On Monday, September 12th, exactly 2 weeks after Katrina struck, the fifth and final hole is closed. But all the fixes are just temporary Band-Aids, providing only a fraction of the protection that the original flood walls offered. It will be nearly a year until the breaches will be repaired to pre-Katrina strength.
We're standing up another task force, and their sole focus will be to reestablish the levees to a pre-Katrina level within 1 year, or by June of next summer.
Until then, any type of storm, even a simple thunder shower, could overwhelm the patches and re-flood the city.
We are concerned about another storm, and so some of the thinking we do when we're doing repairs is we take that into consideration.
Just as the Army Corps of Engineers stabilizes New Orleans,
Hurricane Rita is a Category 5 right now and promises not to diminish.
Round 2 is coming up quicker than anyone thought possible. As the holes in New Orleans' busted levee system become plugged, the Army Corps of Engineers focus their attention on draining the city of the water that has engulfed it and grown more toxic by the day.
It literally is so bad that I believe that it's sucking the oxygen out of the air right there when you're near the water. Don't forsake safety now, dealing with this really toxic waste that is out there.
The city can't be drained, people can't return, and rebuilding won't begin until the pumps start working.
My priorities for today, pumps. And when I say pumps, it's not a pump or one pump station. It is the entire pumping system.
All the high voltage equipment is soaked and there's no power.
Everybody wants the pumps working and the city drained as quick as possible.
Rudy St. Germain, the chief engineer for the Sewer and Water Board of New Orleans, tells the Corps of Engineers that fixing the pumps will take time.
It's got to be pumped out and actually dried out.
Right.
And that takes,
A long time.
well, yeah, at least 24 hours per piece of equipment.
To help drain the city faster, the Corps installs temporary pumps where the breaches occurred. Each pump's about 1,000 gallons a second, a drop in the bucket compared to the city's largest station, which can pump 70,000 gallons a second. And that's just one station.
If we had the full pumping capability available to us, this would have been a 2 or 3 day task of pumping out the city. But we don't.
Getting the nearly 100-year-old pumps working is such a complicated process that Colonel Wagoner needs help.
I was cracking open the first beer on my dad's 80th birthday party, and they said, I got a phone call.
Colonel Dwayne Kopinski, who is the head engineer for the Corps on the Mississippi River in Illinois, gets the call.
My mission is, and the task force on water mission is to remove the water from the city of New Orleans so that normal recovery operations can occur.
It's trial by fire as he jumps right into the battle, deciding which stations to attack first.
The frustrating things are, you realize it's going to take a long time because things are wet, power's down.
Pump station number 6, the city's largest, gets the most people and equipment.
Right here to Station 6 is ground zero for this city. And unless we get pumps loaded here, the city won't be pumped out.
Ronaldo Robertson and others have been living at this station since the storm hit, trying to get it back online.
I'm the kind of person where I'm not going to be overwhelmed by this. I'm going to endure this till the end. And I'm going to stay here until we get this water down.
But trash is choking the intake valves, and the gigantic motors that drive the pumps are also clogged.
The water is not all, as you can see, clear water. It's got a lot of sludge in it.
Before water can flow through the pumps, the motors must be pressure washed. Then they're covered with tarps, while propane heaters are used to dry them out. It's a time-consuming process. People work around the clock to make the station operational. But other pump houses are completely abandoned, leaving neighborhoods entirely flooded weeks after the storm.
We're seeing what we can do to get this area dewatered.
2 weeks after Katrina floods the city, a pumping team makes its way by boat to one of the abandoned stations, this one responsible for draining the inundated 9th Ward.
Walk down there and you can see the water just goes on and on.
When the team gets to the pump house, they are stunned by the damage.
It's a mess. About as nasty a place as I've ever seen.
It's their job to pump the water out of the station, clean the thick layer of sludge that covers everything, and get the electrical equipment fixed.
Something's better than nothing.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
2 weeks after Katrina, more than half of the 23 stations are still not working.
We crank 3 of these babies tonight, we'd be rocking. Okay, we would double the capacity of this area of the city.
Fred Young of the Army Corps of Engineers is on a mission to get more stations up and running.
It gets frustrating for all these guys. We all want to get it done.
Young and his team take a rail truck to yet another abandoned station and try to get it working.
My boss told me I had 36 hours to get another 1,000 online.
It's at this pump station that the workers find hope. While the major pumps here will have to be washed and dried, there is also one newer pump designed differently that doesn't need to be cleaned.
Okay?
You want to start this in tomorrow morning?
I want to start this as soon as you get to it.
The one pump alone can drain several thousand gallons of water a second from the city and would make a huge impact.
We'll get there. That's all I can do. Let's try. We're close at 3.
The pump appears fine, but it still needs power to work. They spend several hours trying to get the backup generator running, but it keeps shutting down. Then, long after the sun goes down, the generator starts to work. The pump begins to turn, and water finally starts to pump out of the station.
We got water? Do we have water? We have a pump going at 3. We have a pump going at 3.
Young calls into headquarters to share some of the first good news to happen since Katrina.
Open the phone, come to the phone, come to the phone. Yeah, we're rolling, we're rolling, we're rolling.
It's an emotional moment for everyone.
Hey. Two of them today. Good for you. Hooah! Hooah!
Their hard work pays off. As more pumps come online, the city finally begins to drain. 3 weeks after Katrina, only 20% of the city remains underwater, down from the original 80%. But the good news is short-lived.
Hurricane Rita is still a very powerful and dangerous storm.
Just as the city is about to turn a corner, another hurricane is on the horizon. Hurricane Rita explodes into a Category 5 storm and is churning a path right towards New Orleans. The Army Corps of Engineers know the wounded levee system will have a tough time handling the storm, but there is little they can do. It had taken just 72 hours for New Orleans to fill with water after Katrina. 3 weeks later, the holes in the levees are filled and the pumps are back in business. The water is finally leaving the city.
We were at probably 90–95% complete, and the most pressing issue was getting rid of the water because then recovery could begin in earnest.
And then the unimaginable happens. Hurricane Rita, the second Category 5 storm to hit the Gulf in a month, is heading towards New Orleans. Even if it misses, Rita is so large that the storm surge, the wall of water gushing ashore, threatens to undo everything the Army Corps of Engineers has managed to accomplish here.
Your two main concerns with a hurricane are storm surge and rainfall. So, we developed our plans around that.
The temporary patches on the broken levees are vulnerable to a large storm surge. They could burst again, and New Orleans could find itself underwater once more. But this time, the Army Corps of Engineers is ready.
Once we knew that Rita was going to be an issue, then we started putting measures in place to mitigate the effects.
They seal off 2 of the repaired canals from Lake Pontchartrain by driving sheet metal into the ground. The temporary dam will block a 14-foot storm surge from entering.
We closed the ends of the canals on 17th Street and London Avenue. because the repairs to the breaches and the flood wall there were at about a 5-foot elevation, which is not very high.
But the industrial canal is far too deep and wide to build similar protection.
Even if you could, it would take an inordinate amount of sheet pile to close that off.
Concerned, the Corps have equipment standing by to replug any sections of the levee system that fails.
We pre-positioned equipment, like sandbags. We had trucks ready.
All they can do is wait.
There is no time to waste tonight as this giant storm now churns to the west.
Rita sweeps past New Orleans and makes landfall on the border with Texas, 300 miles away. The coastal cities of Lake Charles, Louisiana, and Port Arthur, Texas, suffer massive damage. But Rita is so large, more than 400 miles across, that the outer bands of the storm hit New Orleans, and Lake Pontchartrain begins to rise once again. The temporary dams work. The 2 repaired breaches on the 17th Street and London Avenue canals hold up.
The guys on 17th and London are, yeah, they're good.
But there is a failure at the industrial canal. When Colonel Gopinski and his team inspect the new breaches, they watch as the 9th Ward, the impoverished section of New Orleans that flooded with Katrina, begins to flood again with Rita.
Well, 9th Ward is flooding, but of course, you know, that is, I'm just looking at rubble behind me. And then, but there's going to be some ancillary flooding in St. Bernard.
Water is gushing right through their repairs.
Overtopping, kind of wash away all the fine material.
It's tough to watch, but the engineers need to put their emotions aside and deal with the problem.
We've done a lot of work. It just happens. We just need to do this one.
They call in helicopters to drop sandbags and dump trucks to drop dirt to fill in the new holes. But debris is preventing the trucks from reaching the openings. To speed things up, they use nearby construction equipment and begin to clear a path.
Dump it, dump it! We got a breach and we're gonna fill it.
2 days later, the new breaches are closed and pumps begin to drain the area for a second time. But while the Corps continues repairing the levee system to pre-Katrina strength, many questions are swirling about why the cement floodwalls failed in the first place. The Army Corps of Engineers begins its own investigation.
There's 2 big issues. One, we need to take the lessons learned of what happened and apply it to any future construction. And 2, you know, we're a federal agency. We should give an answer to the people of the city for what we think happened.
A week after Rita refloods the city, New Orleans is mostly dry.
Oh man, this is unbelievable.
People are returning to their homes, but it is anything but a happy occasion. Many of the houses, those standing, will never be inhabited again. Thick mold, contamination from the toxic floodwaters, and other structural problems mean that some of these neighborhoods will have to be rebuilt from the ground up.
It's a mess. Flooding-wise.
But perhaps the biggest construction project, rebuilding the levees themselves.
It's a long-term, large-scale project to get this city back to being the Big Easy and having hurricane protection that will protect the future of the city.
The goal? Make the levees even stronger.
I think we can build a bigger, stronger system. It will cost a lot of money and take an awful lot of time.
To treat the problem in its many aspects is going to take decades.
Engineering expert Joe Sahida agrees that New Orleans hurricane protection can be improved in the long term. But he's more concerned about the next few years. He says New Orleans will be especially vulnerable as it rebuilds.
We've got to end this cycle of building and seeing it knocked down and then coming back a little bit higher or a little bit later and seeing it knocked down. I mean, this is, you know, an ongoing thing now. We just need to break that cycle.
And along with that rebuilding, Sahida says must come a more responsible method of building in New Orleans, one that always keeps the force of nature in mind.
This is a time to reassess and, in a sense, redefine what the city's going to be. And clearly, we ought to look at the possibility that the city is going to have a different character.
But for now, Wagoner and his troops are focused on completing their mission, laying the groundwork for that new New Orleans.
I would hope that it really starts getting its feet underneath it within the next 6 months and really starts coming back hard. I think it will. I don't know if 6 months is right, but that would be my hope, that you really start to see life back in this city in 6 months.